Bonner, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split ya. What's it? See ya, wouldn't want to be ya.
Well, I don't want to come off the bench is not a personal issue. Well, I don't like my role.
DeWanna Bonner didn't just leave the Indiana Fever, she detonated her reputation on the way out. What was supposed to be a graceful mid-season exit turned into a scandal that rocked the entire WNBA. She tried to force her way to the Phoenix Mercury. Instead, she got left on waivers, untouched by every team in the league. In just weeks, a six-time All-Star became a league-wide cautionary tale. Fans saw through the press release, players noticed the silence, and the karma came fast. She lost the bag, lost the respect, and might have lost her future. So, what really happened?
Veteran DeWanna Bonner, the team announced. Indiana looked at trade possibilities for the six-time All-Star who had not played since June 10th for what the team called, quote, personal reasons. Well, the personal reasons were, from what I could tell, playing time is what...
At the beginning of the season, DeWanna Bonner was hailed as the ultimate veteran presenter, six-time All-Star, who was supposed to bring stability, wisdom, and leadership to a young Indiana Fever squad headlined by the electric Caitlin Clark. Media Day buzzed with optimism. Teammates nicknamed her Mama Bear. The Fever framed her arrival as a pivotal move to balance out the pressure of having a rookie superstar in the spotlight. And for a moment, it looked like Bonner was ready to step into that mentorship role, anchoring a team riding an unprecedented wave of attention. But that image unraveled faster than anyone expected. By mid-season, Bonner was nowhere to be found. No press appearances, no bench support, no visible signs of leadership. The Indiana Fever released a vague statement saying she was out for personal reasons. But fans weren't buying it. Questions started swirling. Was she injured? Dealing with a private family emergency? No official timeline. No clear details. Just silence and a growing sense of confusion that quickly turned to frustration. As the Fever continued their season without her, reporters and insiders began to dig deeper. Behind the scenes, the narrative shifted. What started as speculation became louder and louder. Bonner hadn't stepped away because of any external crisis. She simply didn't like the role she'd been given. After a slow start to the season, averaging just 6 points per game and shooting a dreadful percentage from the field, she was benched. Not by politics or favoritism, but by performance. And she didn't take it well. Sources close to the team say the personal reasons were actually professional ones. Bonner reportedly wasn't happy about losing minutes to younger players like Lexi Hull, whose hustle and consistent shooting had earned her a starting role. Bonner had expected to walk in, wear the crown of veteran starter, and be part of the Caitlin Clark effect without truly competing for her place. But the WNBA doesn't hand out minutes based on past accolades, it demands production. And when Bonner didn't deliver, the team made adjustments. That's when things turned passive-aggressive. Instead of rising to the challenge, Bonner reportedly began distancing herself, not just from the team's system, but from the team itself. She missed games, skipped road trips, and became a ghost in the Fever locker room. For 5 straight games, her presence was completely absent. That's nearly 1/5 of the season gone without even a clear injury or excuse. The absence wasn't professional, it was personal, in the worst way. Publicly, the team tried to keep it civil. The Fever issued a joint statement thanking Bonner for her time and supporting her decision to move on. She echoed that tone, thanking the organization and wishing them well in their future success. But beneath the PR-polished language, the situation was unraveling, and fans could feel it. Her exit wasn't just sudden, it was symbolic. It felt like a betrayal. To Clark, to the team, to the fans who had bought into the idea that Bonner would be the anchor during one of the most high-pressure transitions any rookie had ever faced. Instead of leading, she left. And in doing so, she ignited a firestorm of criticism, frustration, and backlash that would only grow in the days that followed. The most telling part? Bonner's departure wasn't just about losing a player. It exposed deeper fractures in team chemistry and culture. It showed how even the most celebrated veterans can buckle under the weight of a rising star's gravity. And for many in the Fever organization, it marked the beginning of a new era where leadership had to be earned, not assumed. But Bonner's story doesn't end with a quiet exit. What happened next revealed just how calculated and self-destructive her plan really was.
Bonner out with the old. Ari McDonald, welcome back in with the new. Breaking. The Fever are waiving DeWanna Bonner, league sources told the Indy Star, then re-signing Ari McDonald. Bonner requested a trade after feeling she couldn't find a role on the team after getting benched, along with bevy of other reasons as we covered yesterday. But Indiana could not find a suitable trade.
DeWanna Bonner didn't just leave the Indiana Fever. She made a theatrical exit that peeled back every layer of professionalism she once claimed to represent. It wasn't just a veteran stepping away. It was a veteran ducking accountability. And the way it unfolded? It had all the markings of a diva move, not a professional decision. The term personal reasons has long been used in professional sports to provide cover. It's a shield, something vague enough to protect an athlete's privacy, yet neutral enough to avoid sparking a media firestorm. But in Bonner's case, that phrase became a red flag. Because when someone is out for personal reasons and still has time to unfollow and refollow teammates on social media, dodge team events, and make power plays behind the scenes what's really going on, here's what insiders say actually happened. Bonner didn't like the role she was being given. She wasn't injured. She wasn't facing a personal tragedy. She simply wasn't happy that she wasn't starting. Her stats were down. Her effort looked lackluster. She didn't have the legs, speed, or stamina to match the energy of a young Indiana squad reshaped by Caitlin Clark. And when her minutes were cut in favor of Lexi Hull, who had earned her place with hustle and defense, Bonner reportedly took offense. Rather than double down and work to regain her spot, Bonner sulked. Her response wasn't to compete, it was to disappear. And that's when it became obvious. This wasn't a professional navigating tough circumstances. This was a 37-year-old all-star refusing to come off the bench gracefully. For 5 straight games, Bonner was nowhere to be found. She didn't travel, she didn't suit up, she didn't show face for fans or support teammates on the sidelines. It wasn't just an absence, it was an exit in everything but name. Eventually, her personal leave morphed into a public divorce. The Indiana Fever and Bonner mutually agreed to part ways, with a sanitized press release announcing the move. On the surface, it looked amicable, but no one was fooled. The 48-hour waiver window that followed said everything fans needed to know. Not a single team in the WNBA claimed Bonner, not one. That silence across the league spoke volumes. A 3-time All-Star, a former champion, a player with leadership experience, and a deep resume. And still nothing. No bites, no interest, no takers. For a sport where veterans are often leaned on for playoff pushes and locker room stability, Bonner's rejection was shocking, but also deeply revealing. Why didn't anyone want her? Because everyone saw the writing on the wall. Bonner wasn't a player looking to contribute. She was a player trying to control the narrative. The rumor mill exploded with reports that Bonner had actively told teams not to claim her, that she wanted to go to Phoenix and nowhere else, that her exit from Indiana wasn't a desperate departure. It was a coordinated power play. She was trying to rig her way into a new situation, picking her destination like a free agent despite the fact she was still under contract. And it backfired. Badly. When Phoenix didn't jump at the opportunity, the narrative crumbled. Bonner wasn't the hot commodity she thought she was. She had burned bridges, lost trust, and revealed herself as a disruptive force in a leader worth adding to a playoff-bound roster. Let's be honest, this wasn't how her career was supposed to go. When she signed with Indiana, she was seen as the stabilizing force beside Clark, a calming veteran amidst the frenzy of media attention, fan expectations, and franchise transformation. But when the attention didn't go her way, when the spotlight pointed at someone else, she walked. She didn't just quit the team, she quit the moment she was supposed to rise. And in doing so, Bonner showed that it wasn't really about mentorship or leadership. It was about ego, about control, about being the center of attention in a league that had moved on without asking her permission. What comes next for Bonner? That remains to be seen. But one thing is clear, her exit wasn't professional, it was performative. A diva move cloaked in polite language, aimed at masking a bitter truth. The WNBA's old guard is being tested, and not everyone's passing that test. But Bonner's power play wasn't over yet. What she did next would turn silence into scandal. If DeWanna Bonner's exit from the Indiana Fever looked suspicious from the outside, what happened next confirmed every doubt fans were already whispering. Her disappearance wasn't just emotional, it was strategic. As league insiders dug into the details, a far more orchestrated scheme emerged on that painted Bonner not as a veteran in crisis, but as a calculated player trying to rig her way back to Phoenix on her term. Multiple reports began surfacing that Bonner, during her mysterious absence from the Fever, was quietly working behind the scenes. Her message to other teams was simple: don't claim me. According to sources close to league management, Bonner had allegedly contacted other franchises directly or through intermediaries, asking them to pass on her when she hit waivers. The goal? Force a direct path to Phoenix Mercury, her former team, her comfort zone, and reportedly still home to her partner, Alyssa Thomas. Let that sink in. A contracted WNBA player, still receiving a guaranteed 6-figure salary, ghosted her team, created internal chaos, and then actively manipulated the waiver system to pick her own destination mid-season. That kind of behavior would be shocking in any league, but in the WNBA, where tight rosters and smaller market dynamics demand professionalism and trust, this move landed like a grenade in the middle of the league's image. And just when fans thought the optics couldn't get worse, something else happened. Phoenix Mercury suddenly cleared cap space. Almost as if it were choreographed, Phoenix began making internal roster changes just days before Bonner officially departed Indiana. Players on hardship contracts were shuffled around, contracts were terminated, Suddenly, a team that hadn't shown interest in adding a high-profile vet now had a tidy opening and the exact salary slot needed to make Bonner fit. To the public, this looked far too convenient. A spontaneous coincidence or something more deliberate? Fans and analysts weren't buying the fit didn't work narrative anymore. The timing, the cap space, the silence from every other WNBA teammate all pointed to one conclusion. Bonner had a destination in mind before she ever walked away. The Phoenix Mercury may not have officially tampered, but the circumstantial smoke had people seeing fire. More theories began circulating. Had Bonner purposely tanked her trade value to make a forced waiver more palatable? After all, she played poorly in the first stretch of the season, far below her career standards. Her shooting percentage cratered, her defense lagged, her presence disappeared. Some even speculated she intentionally underperformed to make herself seem untradeable, thus ensuring Indiana had no other option but to waive her. That way, she could skip the trade process and go straight to free agency. If true, this wasn't just unprofessional, it was a masterclass in self-serving manipulation. Think about it. Bonner signs a lucrative deal with Indiana, enjoys the media spotlight of playing next to Caitlin Clark, reaps the early season attention as jersey sales spike and viewership skyrockets. Then, as soon as the reality of fewer minutes and a supporting role sets in, she bails. She tanks her value, walks away, asks teams to pass, and clears a path to her preferred team home that suddenly has the room to welcome her. It's one thing to want a better fit. It's another to sabotage an entire process to get there. But here's the twist: Phoenix hesitated. Despite the alleged backroom coordination and the cap-clearing effort, Phoenix didn't jump immediately. Reports surfaced that the Mercury front office was having second thoughts. After all, what message would they be sending by embracing a player who just quit on a team and tried to manipulate the system to her benefit? Bonner had assumed Phoenix would be her safety net, but suddenly, that net looked shaky. The young Mercury roster was thriving. Chemistry was high, energy was real, and the last thing they needed was a high-drama vet walking into the locker room with the residue of controversy clinging to her every move. What started as a slick escape plan now looked like a dangerous game of chicken, with her career and reputation hanging in the balance. In trying to force her way back to Phoenix, Bonner didn't just burn a bridge with Indiana. She scorched her credibility across the entire league, and when the Mercury began blinking, she had nowhere else to turn. The next chapter? It wouldn't be written on her terms. Because when karma knocks, it rarely asks for permission.
DeWanna Bonner signs a free agent contract with the Indiana Fever, and after a handful of games, wants out, wants a Fever exit, apparently. And that is a strange situation, right? Because she was embraced. She had her achievement at the beginning of the season, moving up the scoring ranks. They were referring to her as Mama Bear in training camp, and now all of a sudden that has fallen apart. She was out of the starting lineup, hadn't really produced that much, particularly on the offensive end.
When DeWanna Bonner officially hit waivers, the WNBA world held its breath. Here was a six-time All-Star, a player with championship experience, now completely available for free. All a team had to do was raise its hand within the 48-hour window, and Bonner's contract, worth $200,000, would be theirs. No draft picks required, no assets traded. Just a veteran, sitting there, waiting. And yet, nothing happened. The waiver window came and went. Bonner went untouched. Not one of the league's 11 other franchises saw her as worth the risk. Not one general manager made the call. Not one locker room opened its doors. And just like that, a player who had spent over a decade building a reputation as a reliable contributor, often under the radar, but always steady, was rejected by the entire league in the most public and humiliating way possible. This wasn't just silence. It was a thunderous, unified reputation check. And the message was loud and clear. DeWanna Bonner's exit from Indiana had crossed the line. If you told someone a few months ago that Bonner, a proven vet with a history of postseason contributions, would be waived mid-season and ignored by every team in the league, they would have called you crazy. She wasn't injured, she wasn't suspended, she didn't even have a criminal accusation tied to her name. She was simply available. Yet no one bid. That says more than any press conference ever could. What makes this even more jarring is how valuable veteran presence typically is in the WNBA. With rosters capped at 12, minutes are scarce, and experience is everything. Teams covet reliable vets to anchor their rotations, especially as playoff races heat up. So when not even a bottom-tier team wanted to roll the dice on Bonner, fans began asking the uncomfortable question: what does the rest of the league know that we don't? Insiders offered a few explanations. First, the optics of her exit were simply too damaging. She wasn't benched due to injury. She wasn't playing behind multiple All-Stars. She had opportunities. And when things didn't go her way, when the spotlight landed on someone else, she bolted. No explanation, no transparency. Just a vague personal reasons card, while young players like Caitlin Clark were left to answer awkward questions alone. Second, her attempt to control the system didn't sit right. Word had spread quickly that Bonner allegedly told teams not to claim her because she had her eyes set on Phoenix. That rubbed executives the wrong way. For years, the WNBA had operated on a foundation of professionalism and mutual respect. Bonner trying to play GM behind the scenes? That crossed a boundary, one that no team wanted to encourage. But perhaps most damaging of all was how this episode killed her leverage. Bonner had essentially revealed that she wasn't open to any destination except one Phoenix. That gave her zero negotiation power. If Phoenix said no, she was done. If Phoenix hesitated, she was stuck. This wasn't just a misstep, it was career malpractice. The fallout was swift and brutal. Suddenly, Bonner wasn't the respected veteran anymore. She was seen as the player who quit when things got tough. The player who thought she could engineer her exit with zero consequences. The player who thought her resume would insulate her from accountability. And karma? It came fast. By going unclaimed, Bonner forfeited her $200,000 guaranteed salary with Indiana. When she finally signed with Phoenixon, the minimum, prorated contract, she made back only about $80,000 for the rest of the season. That's a six-figure loss, all self-inflicted. The money, however, was just the start. What Bonner truly lost was credibility. Future coaches will remember this episode. Future GMs will think twice before handing her another deal. Teammates around the league will remember how she vanished. And most importantly, fans saw through the PR smokescreen. Bonner's fall wasn't just about minutes or roles, it was about character. And the WNBA, for all its growth and corporate polish, is still a league built on trust, accountability, and culture. She broke all three. And for that, the league turned its back on her. The dust hadn't even settled on DeWanna Bonner's chaotic departure before the ripple effects began reshaping the Indiana Fever from the inside out. While Bonner quietly walked away, the locker room, fans, and even media voices were already shifting their tone from confused concern to a blunt, unspoken relief. Her exit didn't leave a leadership vacuum, it sparked a cultural reset. First came Natasha Howard, a fellow veteran who entered the Fever alongside Bonner. The two were supposed to be anchors leaders who would steady a young ship as Caitlin Clark adjusted to the intense spotlight of the pros. But while Bonner bailed under pressure, Howard stayed. She didn't issue a press release. She didn't throw teammates under the bus. Instead, she responded in subtle but powerful way-scriptic Instagram posts, song lyrics about perseverance, and a quiet presence on the court. She didn't need to say Bonner's name. Her continued commitment to the team said it all. Howard could have followed the same exit path. After all, she had just as much reason to be frustrated. Her fit with the Fever wasn't perfect either. Her minutes had fluctuated, critics were vocal, but she chose to grind through the noise, not run from it. And the fans noticed. Unlike Bonner, Howard began to gain something more valuable than just playing time respect. Then came Ari McDonald. A former hardship signee who had been cut by the LA Sparks, McDonald saw an opportunity in Indiana and made the most of it. She played with heart, grit, and energy, everything Bonner's final games lacked. She wasn't a big name. She wasn't signed to a six-figure deal. But in just a few games, she won over fans with hustle plays, lockdown defense, and unselfish energy. Where Bonner's presence had become a drag on chemistry, McDonald lit a fire. When the Fever re-signed her, it wasn't just a basketball decision. It was a symbolic shift. The team was moving on from entitlement and embracing effort. In McDonald, they found someone who wanted to be there, not someone trying to leverage their way out. Fans immediately responded, singing her praises on social media, sharing highlight clips, and cheering her as one of their own. She wasn't a backup plan. She became the preferred plan. Meanwhile, Bonner became the face of selfishness. The mama bear role she was supposed to embody, gone. Replaced by headlines that painted her as the veteran who couldn't handle not being the center of attention. The locker room energy improved. Coaches no longer had to tiptoe around egos, and players no longer had to wonder when or if their teammate would return. The on-court results spoke for themselves. The Fever's performance improved after Bonner's exit. The ball movement was smoother. Defensive intensity ticked up. Team chemistry, previously under quiet strain, blossomed in her absence. What could have been a major setback instead became a textbook case of addition by subtraction. But perhaps the loudest statement came not from words, but from silence. No player in the WNBA rushed to defend Bonner. No coaches gave the usual respect her decision soundbites. No analysts floated sympathetic narratives. Even among veterans who typically stick together, there was radio silence. In professional sports, that's damning. When you exit a franchise and no one or not one person publicly backs you, that's a reflection of what truly went on behind the scenes. And fans, they didn't hold back. Fever faithful who once celebrated Bonner's arrival took to comment sections to say good riddance. Tweets and posts mocked her reasons for leaving. Some called her behavior unprofessional, others labeled it childish. But the consistent theme was that her exit confirmed what many had already sensed: didn't want to be there. And now, nobody wanted her back. Even WNBA media, usually cautious in its criticism, didn't frame her departure as a tragedy or a misunderstood decision. The coverage was clear. Bonner walked away, and the Fever kept walking without looking back. The fallout of her decision wasn't just financial or reputational, it was relational. She severed trust. And in a league like the WNBA where teams are tight-knit and reputations travel faster than contracts, that kind of fallout is permanent. DeWanna Bonner's mid-season exit from the Indiana Fever wasn't just a bad look, it was a full-blown implosion of ego. She tried to force her way to Phoenix, manipulate the system, and preserve her legacy. Instead, she lost money, respect, and left a rebuilding team fractured. Her actions sparked silence from teammates and rejection from every franchise in the league. What was supposed to be a power move turned into a cautionary tale. Now fans and executives alike are left wondering, are we witnessing true player empowerment or the rise of unchecked entitlement threatening to unravel everything the WNBA has built?